going to talk a little bit about Hollywood. We've talked about it. We've had different folks on. We had the amazing leads from the movie 645 on. Everybody's telling the same story. We've had Rachel Perkins on, a producer in Santa Monica. I wanted to bring on an actor that you've probably seen in a few shows, has an amazing, amazing background, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Hollywood now behind the scenes. As we get into movie season, obviously award season is just around the corner. Yes, I'm talking about normally award season is right around the corner as we hit late October. So let's welcome our guest to the show today and make sure I push the right button because it's always wrong when Eric pushes the right button. Look at that. There we are. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Another day in paradise. That's where we're at. Another day with the election getting closer. I can't wait for that to be over because I hope miraculously whatever happens, they decide that we need to have new stuff filmed on TV so guys like you can go start making great stuff again for us.
And you can go back to work, right?
Right? I'm sure you're ready for that, right? You're like, okay, I'm cool. This is cool. Sitting.
I mean, luckily, a lot of states have started opening their doors to filmmakers and productions. So as soon as September hit, I got right back into it. You know.
Oh, that's good.
I've been lucky to. I've been working a little bit.
It is interesting, right? So initially, like, how was it for you? Like, you've been filming stuff. You've had, roles in several big things. I mean, Luke Cage. What's the biggest thing that you were doing in 2020 before March hit and everything went? What were you doing before that? Like, you were probably just living the actor life. I mean, you have several roles, so.
I moved out to LA in 2019. I moved out on a whim. For lack of better words, I ate shit in New York for a long time, doing off-Broadway shows, theatrical productions in apartment buildings, warehouses, doing short films, student films, unpaid projects. The list goes on. And after doing that for about seven years, I felt that there was a point that I needed to kind of know what's out there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
If you look at anybody's trajectory, anybody who's ever made it, other than Robert De Niro, you kind of have to make that transition to Los Angeles and get a better understanding of the business, because the business side in New York, it's not quite as apparent as it is in Los Angeles. You learn that there's a whole nother aspect to being an actor, to being a creative, and to being a filmmaker. And it's not just how well you do at an audition. It's how you present yourself on set, the work ethic that you provide, being prepared, networking, going to events, and you gotta show face in Los Angeles, because oftentimes showing face will be that auditioning process. A lot of people that I personally have worked with, I like working with them because they're good people. They're hardworking. I know they're doing their absolute best to get the best kind of product that they can. They're passionate about what they do, and it's not just a job, because you do come across people that do it as a hobby, and everybody needs to pay their bills, and I get that. But my mentor that I worked with in New York, a man by the name of Sedley Bloomfield, he told me that he doesn't say this often to many performers, but he said, if you have a plan B, you're setting plan A up to fail. And so he suggested that I go after it full time, and I did. And so upon moving to LA, I got lucky. I booked a feature film. And this is like after a list of like credits of co-stars, small guest starring roles on TV shows, streaming platforms, you name it. So I went to LA and I finally started leading in feature films. I got my first leading role in a feature film. While I was on that one, I didn't have an agent or a manager out here. Everything I did was on my own. I had an agent in New York, but she didn't get the LA breakdown. So I was kind of out here in the Wild West figuring it out and just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. And while I was on my first feature film, I saw the other actors submitting for work, and I'm like, duh, submit for work. See if you can find another job. I wasn't really thinking that far ahead, but I did. And on Actors Access, there was an open call to a Lifetime movie. I submitted for it. I sent a video audition. One of the actresses, my co-star, helped me film it while we were shooting the last features. But Lady Annabelle Barrett, phenomenal actress, she helped me film it. And the day we wrapped, I got a call back for the Lifetime movie. Went to the callback. with an in-person with the director. I was prepared. I was ready to go. I just had the momentum of coming off another feature film as the lead. And I guess I won them over. And 2 or 3 days later, they offered me the part. And here's the best part. 3 days later, after booking it, we started filming. So I had 3 days to, look at the script, memorize it, become comfortable with the character that I'd be playing, and go into production. We shot that Lifetime movie. After that one, I booked the pilot for a.
But wait, let's stay with the Lifetime movie, because if I'm correct here in my notes, and my team did their job, that movie debuted during quarantine, right? So that's got to be different for you coming from a feature. I kind of want to stay on this for a second because I think that's fascinating. Is this feature on Lifetime comes out during the middle of quarantine? So, I mean, what was that like? You've been to other debuts, I'm sure. I mean, obviously, as a lead in anything, you've done that. Even your roles that you've done on other things. I'm sure Netflix, when you were doing Luke Cage, you've been around that kind of stuff. How is this different here's this premiere, by the way, here it is, it's just on TV. Like, there's no fanfare.
So, I'm all about, I love reaping the benefits of what I sow. So, yeah, it's cool to go and experience a premiere and, like, have the... that fan factor play into it. You see the energy from the crowd, but at the end of the day, it was a TV movie, right? And it's my first leading role in a TV movie where I'm not like just a small character. I actually got a chance to show my chops and show what I've been, working so hard in theater, in the short films. All the hard work that I did was finally getting to this place where people could see it. It's not the short film that doesn't end up going anywhere that nobody hears about. So for me, I was indifferent as to whether or not I had a premiere in person or whether or not it was on air. I was just happy to know that I had that on my resume. That this was another thing. This was that thing, according to people, that if you have, a feature film, your first feature film kind of dictates like how people are going to perceive you. And luckily, when it came out, everyone was home, right? So people kind of they kind of moved away from cable television. Everyone's kind of more in tune with streaming now. Everyone's on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. And so for me, it was beneficial, at least in terms of viewership, that people were quarantined. People were at home. More people got to watch the movie. I had friends that I haven't heard from in a really long time that reached out to me and that saw me make the initial steps towards my acting career back when I was 20 years old. And 8 years later, they're seeing like the work finally, show for itself. And for me, I mean, I wish we could have a premiere. I wish I could walk that red carpet and take photos. Cool, great. But I never got in this for the fame. I got in this because I loved it. And any actor that does do it for that reason will tell you that you kind of have a set of blinders on and you just keep focusing on what's next. You're never quite satisfied with the performance. You're never quite satisfied with what you're doing. You're always looking for a way to make it better. So for me, it was a great experience. I'm grateful for what I've given from it. And to be honest, so I'm from Europe. I was born in Poland. My family moved here when I was 3. I'm an immigrant. And my family in Poland, they knew about my career, but they never quite got to see anything, aside from the small things that I send them. And not too long ago, about a month ago, my aunt in Poland, one of my closest relatives, like another mother to me, was just swiping through the channels, and then she saw my face in Poland on HBO, which was kind of like surreal, on the Lifetime movie. So then, then I found out it was playing internationally, and then you see it on Instagram because everyone starts following you, everyone starts messaging you, and I'm the kind of person I never wanted to be. So I've been that guy that like looks up to like a celebrity and like I'll message them. Why? I don't know. I don't think they're gonna answer me, but there's a little tiny bit of myself that hopes someone will be like, "Hey, hope you're having a great day. I saw your message. Thank you so much. I appreciate it." Yeah. So I hate myself for it, but I sit there and I go through all my messages. And for the people that are respectful and that reach out to me, I'll answer them and I'll tell them thank you for watching. So for me, it's a gratifying experience. That Lifetime movie was a gratifying experience that opened a lot of doors for me.
I love it. Before you go, two things I want to ask you. We'll end on a high note, but we're going to ask a different question, just because I hear this from a lot of folks in your industry. Part of the big holdup with COVID, when it comes to acting getting back, is our friends in the union.
Yeah.
A lot of you SAG card holders, and for those of you playing at home, so that's Screen Actors Guild, for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, but SAG actors, the unions are kind of making your guys' life a little difficult. If you want to go down that realm and just kind of share what's going on and what makes it difficult. We've had a couple people on to talk about it. I'd love to hear you, because you are the more high-level feature person we have. I mean, being in a Lifetime movie, you've been in a lot. I mean, your screen credits are pretty impressive. The fact that I went back before I watched it and hit Luke Cage up just to watch to see you in there, to be like, hey, I got to give him love. Now we'll see, folks, if he does follow me back on Twitter. I did give him.
I'll do it right now.
I did give him a follow on the tweets while he was talking. Just we're seeing. By the way, I have more followers. But I haven't been a feature in a movie yet, so I hate to say I have more followers. But anyway, so that's all we're talking about. But kind of break down what's going on with the union when it comes to you SAG actors. It sounds like you guys have there's a big gap between what's really happening, and the unions are actually delaying a lot of going back to work, where other states are shooting. Georgia is wide open, West Virginia is wide open. They're shooting. I mean, Tyler Perry's camp has been sequestered filming their shows in Georgia. A lot of people are going to Georgia to shoot a lot of things. I know people who are moving conferences to Georgia so they don't have to deal with all the games. So what's going on with yours?
These are tight-knit circles of people, right? And as much as people, want to say that everyone has an equal opportunity, I will always, personally, if I have an audition or if I have a casting for something that I'm doing, I will always look at the people that I've come across in my journey getting here first before I go to strangers. It's just how it works. You want to keep your circle tight knit. There's a lot of people that are trying to do it, and there's a lot of people that are doing it. And you can tell what the difference is between wanting to be good and wanting to be famous, right? Fame is a product of being good, and that's what a lot of people kind of miss. And so to go back to this COVID question, it's hard now. It's hard, especially because the unions are, they're looking out for everyone's for everyone's safety. They're trying to watch out for your health and to put you first. But the problem right now is that our economy is very destabilized. People don't have the money that they used to, and to have to almost take a quarter or even a third of your budget and allocate that just to COVID prep it's hard enough to get money as is. If you're a big studio, right, that has a list of investors that are already comfortable with putting in money, that's a different story. You have people that will put more money because they know this is a protocol that they have to adhere to. So for example, big productions like Batman, they went back into production, but they went to London. But they're following the safety protocols, and SAG approved of, I don't know what contract, because to be quite frank, I feel like everyone, despite them having like their union contract, every film production gets its own individual contract that the union negotiates if you're a big enough player, which I'm assuming the Batman films that have Robert Pattinson in them, they have the money for that.
Well, that's a whole separate story. We're not going to go down why he's Batman. Because that's a whole nother argument for a whole nother show. We need you for a whole nother segment if we want to say, I think you would be a better Batman than Robert Pattinson. I mean, I don't want Batman mesmerizing me with his looks.
Give him a chance. When the movie comes out and it's not good, okay, but give him the chance.
I like Fat Batman. Fat Batman.
Batman?
I love Fat Batman. Ben Affleck, baby. I know he's not fat. I just say he's bigger in that because he got big. Good for Ben. I mean, he was a good Batman. There's two good Batmans, and then there's Affleck, and then there's the rest who suck. But the best Batman, Christian Bale.
Yeah,
then Keaton. Keaton was a dope Batman. Keaton was like Keaton, and then Affleck. I can't get behind a vampire being my Batman.
That's not fair. See, that's not fair.
It's not fair. I'm just saying.
I don't want, Christopher Nolan's I'm gonna audition for Christopher Nolan when he's like, he did a Lifetime movie. I can't get the guy in a Lifetime. Get the hell out of here.
But hey, you recently did a movie with Dean Cain. So, I mean, speaking of, there's a guy everybody kind of looked at. I mean, you remember a few years ago, people dogged out poor Dean Cain because he was, he was Superman.
He's a strong Republican.
He's a very strong Republican. I mean,
well, see, here's the thing, right? When I worked with him, we never spoke politics.
Yeah.
Ever. And
he's a good dude.
When you come to work, I came here to play.
Yeah.
You know, my prep is done at home. I bust my ass to make sure I'm ready on set, so there's no questions or any hesitations about my performance and what I can do. Yep. That's never a question. So when I worked with him, I saw what a professional was. He's a professional. The man didn't speak about politics. He refrained from speaking about it. We spoke about the business. He told me about a first look deal he had with Sony when he was working on Ripley's Believe It or Not, when he was on Superman, the offers he had, that the fact that he chose family over work, that he chose to create a relationship with his son as opposed to going off and being away, traveling, doing all these different productions. The man, everyone, we live in the country, home of the free. We live in a country where, you can have your own voice. Whether you're protesting, whether you're for blue lives or black lives or whatever. That's why we live here, because we're all different and we all have different points of views. So
I love that you're saying that because you immigrated to America, because I think so many people, and I say that as someone born here, I say this as somebody who served his country, it drives me nuts that people who born here, just like myself, have such an issue. But you and a few other folks, I mean, it's everybody, but I don't interview a ton of people who immigrated here. But the ones that I do, it's your appreciation and love of our country, the same thing that I love. The fact that my studio, my office, my home, there's a lot of American flags here. And it's because I serve my country. I love that. I've been surrounded by it. But it's weird how I see folks like you, people are like, oh, Hollywood hates America. I'm like, I don't think so, because that's not what's coming out of your mouth. I don't care how you vote. I don't care if what color lives matter to whoever. That's not where I'm at. It's good to hear you say that, my friend, because I think there's so much separation in these next, 20 some odd days we have until the election. And if anybody thinks on November 3rd this is over, I can tell you it's going to continue on and it's going to be even worse. They're going to make movies about this. You'll probably end up in a role. But I mean, I'm also talking to the same guy who was like a stone's throw from Leo in photos and sitting right next to Jamie Foxx. I mean you can't beat that. I'm like, do we talk about that? I was asking our producer, I was like, Jordan, can we just go through his Instagram and be like, okay, show off. Okay, really. Go check out his Instagram, folks. We'll put it. You can check out his handle. Go check it out. He's like sitting there, like. My question, and completely off topic. We're gonna drive this car off the bridge because this is what we're doing. How hard was it not to run over and say anything to Leo, or did you? I mean, you're not far away from him. I mean, you're like a body length away.
So, all right. So, from what I've come to understand at these award shows, there are a different tier of celebrity once you reach celebrity, right? So you can be a celebrity, but then the celebrities have the celebrities that they look up to. And that table with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, apparently those are the celebrities to celebrities. Those are the people that actors, those are actors. Those are people that's Hollywood gold. That's old Hollywood right there. That's something that doesn't quite exist anymore. It's not quite as old as, what most people are thinking, but they're the last bit of that, of what Hollywood was, of what kind of people came, movie stars, because everyone's on television now and these guys are movie stars. Yeah. And so it's actually funny, sat in Brad's seat by accident and sitting there, and I didn't realize what table I was until people started sitting at it. And then I feel a tap on my shoulder, and all I hear is, "You're up, champ." I turn around, and it's the Prince of Hollywood himself staring me in the eyes. I've never seen a man look like that in real life.
I love it.
Sweet looking man, great energy. And then I moved over, and I was sitting next to Jamie Foxx, and him and I spoke a little bit, only because I saw Just Mercy, right? And I saw this in early 2019, because I, as a part of the union, I went to the screeners, and I actually went to a few of the Q&As, and I saw them, and I complimented on them. We exchanged names, and then him and I were scoffing at some of the people that were winning awards. It was fun. It was a really interesting experience.
And that was the decade. That was the decade known as the beginning of 2020, long before we reached the pinnacle of
Well,
now.
imagine that, right? 2019, I did 5 features back to back, right? Just moving to LA, leading in all of them, not quite knowing where they're going to go, because the Lifetime one, I didn't know it was a Lifetime one at the time. That's in hindsight, because once you make these films, then they get sold, and then they kind of end up on whatever platform. So in hindsight, I did these movies, don't know where they're going. I get invited to go to the awards show by one of my friends who works on the production team. And I start off the year with a bang. I'm actually with my director, who's editing with our editor in the other room. I'm staying with him right now in LA, but I brought him with me to the SAG Awards. And I thought, what better person than a director who I just made such a great relationship with. We love working together. Let's go experience this Hollywood thing, you know?
I love it. So last question before you go, because we're going to bring you back. Definitely you need to come back on, because we'll talk way forever. But my last question, and it's the most important one to me, is how can folks help with the arts? A lot of us want to help out. We know you guys, hey, it needs to be out there getting back to work. Not everybody's getting back to work. I mean, the Oscars have been pushed back to April, as it already is. I don't even know what films are up for running, because I can't remember the last time we were in there. Please don't tell me it's between Mulan and the new Bill and Ted movie. I hope, if we're going to put it up against Tenet, it sounds like Tenet's going to run and win that, because if that's its competition, and so far that's what it looks like it is.
I was hoping Bond was going to come out, but
I know, wouldn't that be? Or Top Gun 2? I mean, those are movies that would do well. Instead, what are we given? Trolls, Mulan. No offense to either of those with kids. I get it. I don't have kids that young. Mulan.
I've seen it. We've done it. You know, it's like the Lion King remake. Did we really need a Lion King remake?
No, we don't. We don't need that again. We do have Mandalorian, which excites all of us. That Mandalorian's coming out. That is so wonderful that they filmed that and got that in the can. And I was talking to, who was I talking to? I interviewed someone recently, and we were talking about how great it will be that sat in post so long, and people really couldn't go anywhere. So the post-production of that will be on money. You know, nothing was missed in that.
Did they film are they going to release all the episodes, or are they going to do it weekly again?
They're probably going to do weekly again.
Thank God, because, man, I would eat that whole cake in one sitting.
I mean, could you imagine? It's that. They're going to copy what ESPN did with Last Dance with Michael Jordan, right? That came out.
Oh, I just finished watching that last night.
Amazing. Right?
Man, Michael Jordan is ruthless, but that's the kind of ruthless you need to be if you want to make it.
Absolutely. I mean, we just saw LeBron James actually watch Last Dance right after he put on his 4th ring. He just watched Last Dance again. And it says so much, because Last Dance, I think, says a lot about 2020. It shows a lot of how studios are trying to adapt and get over things, because that was a documentary that wasn't supposed to come out till June. They dropped that in April, and it was what everybody wanted. And it was it's what we needed. We needed to see something well-produced, good soundtrack, amazing soundtrack, actually. It was great.
Something that can take us away, though, you know?
Yeah.
Something that can just take us out of what's going on. So we need escape.
Yeah, and next we're going to get a Kobe one. The Kobe one is in the works right now as we speak. That'll be difficult to watch. A lot of us were affected by Kobe's passing. I mean, even watching, I'm not a Laker fan, but seeing the Lakers dedicate what they did and seeing what LeBron recently said about Kobe after winning.
Between those players and between the fans, that's something you don't see every day.
No, it's going to be interesting. So to go back to my question, before my producer screams at me further, like, close the interview up. So that's what I have in my ear. They're like, Eric, do you know what rap means? I'm like, gifts. That's what we're doing. We're finishing. The name of the show is To the Point with Eric Mitchell. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to finish my conversation here. So wrapping up, how can folks help with the arts? What is the best way for folks to do that, other than going and tracking you down? We're going to have all of your links on here so people can go watch your work and support your work. But how else can people at home, viewers at home, do their part to, a lot of us support the arts. It's something that's important to us. Movies are our life. The Oscars, whether you agree with the politics or not, we watch the Oscars. We have a whole dinner here. It's our thing. I mean, we've flown to New York to have an Oscars party, okay? And the Oscars weren't even in New York. Don't ask us why we flew across. That's a whole nother subject. That's my mom. We'll blame her. Mom, your fault. But I mean, But I mean, the Oscars are fun. The SAG Awards are fun to watch. I've never been to one, but just looking at your photos alone is like, dude, that's pretty epic. I mean, it's an accomplishment. So, same with the Golden Globes. It's another thing for me. I mean, those are amazing awards. You get to see amazing actors. And of course, you and I, before we started our interview, we were talking probably about one of the most memorable awards was Chadwick. I'm going to give Chadwick mad love right now. Chadwick with his speech to Denzel. I mean, that's stuff that a lot of people don't watch. But if you're into movies, you're like, you look at guys like Chadwick, you look at guys like Denzel that have your story. Like, they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, Denzel was just another dude who took a role and he got emotional in Glory. Wasn't supposed to be the big name in Glory. Actually, in Glory, the big name was supposed to be Morgan. Morgan was supposed to be the big name with Matthew Broderick and Carrie Hughes, who just seems to be the second hand in every movie the poor man's ever done. I mean, poor Carrie. He's Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's his famous role. Great movie. That's his famous role. I mean, that's what he's doing.
But to answer your question,
we'll do the question. We'll go off on tangents. See, this is why we have to have you back, and we're going to do a full hour with you, just because we'll just our show. We'll juggle and entertain.
I think what people can do now is just support local artists. If you have a friend that's struggling right now, give them a word of encouragement. Support their art. Help share what they're doing. It's local artists that make it. Those are the people that work hard, the people that do it because they're dedicated and because they're passionate and because they love what they do. And not enough people get the validation for their work. So if you see an artist, go buy something on the street. Give them $1 for playing music on the subway. Or maybe just throw them a smile and tell them thank you. That was beautiful. That's all you need to do for artists. And if you can, go out and vote. Be a responsible American. Despite what side you're voting for, be a responsible American and participate in what's going on in our country and shaping the future. And that's about it.
I love that. That you can't beat that. We're dropping the mic on that. I want to thank you, my friend, for joining us today. We're going to have you back. We'll have you back after Mandalorian drops, so we'll figure out we can grade that and talk about what you're doing. Are you working on anything right now before we go that folks should be tuning into and supporting?
I just got off that Dean Cain biopic. We did a story that's based off of a man named Jonathan Hickory. He's a first responder who dealt with PTSD, alcoholism, and how he overcame that battle. I play Jonathan Hickory. He has a book out called Break Every Chain. If you guys want to check out what the film's going to be about, check out Break Every Chain by Jonathan Hickory, and look out for the movie Break Every Chain, starring myself and Dean Cain, directed by Tim Searfoss.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put that in the link to have people go check out that book. Always want to support our first responders like we support our military out here. And that's one thing I will say about Dean Cain is I may not always agree with his politics, but I sure agree with the fact of how he treats first responders and the military. He is an amazing... I mean, you got to face it. There's a lot before you go. There are a lot of folks in Hollywood that I think are amazing when it comes to their support of our veteran and our first responder community. Of course, Dean's one of them. If we move up a few pegs, we could go to Tom Hanks and, of course, Steven Spielberg, who their love of World War II and anything veteran-related is amazing. Gary Sinise is always... I think he's the most famous guy who's never served but played a role in a movie that he'll forever be Lieutenant Dan. I mean, to all of us... Lieutenant Dan. I mean, he's just fabulous. I've met him several times, and he's just down to earth for a guy who... I mean, that's an iconic movie, Forrest Gump.
It's a critically acclaimed film with critical acclaimed performances that are going to be etched in history forever.
And look what he does. I mean, he is so selfless. Like, he stopped acting so he could work with veterans.
Really?
Slow that down and think about that. I mean, that's almost as nuts as being a Belushi and opening a weed farm in Oregon. Wait a minute.
I'll tell you this, though.
That did happen, and that's true, but his wife's number one things, you do know, Belushi's wife, when he sat his wife down and said, hey, we're moving from Los Angeles to Central Oregon, and I bought a cannabis farm. She's like, you're not quitting acting, right? I'm like, yeah. By the way, it's really good stuff that he farms.
Really?
Oh, yes.
We'll have to go and sample some of that one.
It's called Blues Brothers, shocking enough, I know. Interesting. It is. It's really it's great. It's a picture of his brother and Mr. Aykroyd on there. That's a whole nother subject we could talk about. Folks gone too soon in Hollywood. I know Jim was on talking about John. There we go. Try to figure out those two names. Say them fast. John was talking about Jim, and he said that if cannabis would have been legalized, he believes his brother would still be here today. And he said he believed that off a lot of them because people are working so hard. You got to look at like, the folks we lost on SNL, right? I mean, Chris Farley and all those folks. They got hyped up on life, but those guys were phenomenal comedians. I mean, we lost Phil Hartman. But anyways, I could go off on that tangent forever. But it's been great having you on the show. We got to have you back. Everybody else, you'll be able to find out all the information for today's guest down below. Scroll into CCTV, scroll down, you'll see it right there. There's a link, click on it, make sure you give him a follow. And you heard him, you heard the guest, you heard him say, he'll respond to you if you send him a DM. So keep it clean.
Be nice.
Be nice, don't be mean. Don't be like, I saw your role and I wasn't a fan. I didn't like the way you stood. Don't be that guy. Yeah, that's my job. I'm going to send him that message. I don't know what. I'm just going to find something to bitch about.
No, be honest. If you didn't like it, yeah, you got to tell me. You got to tell me. I'll try to do better.
But yeah, so we'll have our guest back, but we'll be right back after these messages. Thanks, everybody.
Let's get to the point.